Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
On average, every day, there are nearly 2,600 takeoffs and landings at Atlanta International Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in the world. The ability to control that volume of traffic is an impressive feat, but it's necessitated through a number of systems and as well a fair amount of dialogue between air traffic control and the pilots in the airplane. So today I'm going to cover some of the major ground operation elements of air traffic control that interface in with the pilots that allow an airplane to get from the gate or the terminal out to the runway for takeoff. Pilots and air traffic control depend a significant amount on radio operation and communication, and as well, as I said at the beginning, a number of services. And those services include a service called the Automatic Terminal Information Service, which is also known as ATIS, clearance delivery, ground control, and tower controllers, which are also known as local controllers. And so I'll provide a little bit of detail around each one of these services. The first service, the Automatic Terminal Information Service, also known as ATIS. And this is, as I said, a radio service, and it is a continuous broadcast of essential non-control information to pilots in the terminal area. It's updated hourly, and it provides essential information around the weather. It provides winds, visibility, cloud cover, temperatures, humidity, and pressure, which are all essential pieces of information the pilot needs for safe operation. As well, it provides information around the active runways at the airport that are in use, and it also provides they call notice to airmen, or specific pieces of information that are essential, that are abnormal about what's going on the grounds at the airport. So it could be that there's some closures on the ground at the airport that the pilot needs to know about to again operate safely on the airport. So the first thing a pilot will do is they'll tune in their radio and they'll listen to this broadcast of information, and they get this information down. And I went out last night to Kansas City International, and I got the ATIS information from Kansas City International that I thought I would share with you, so you can kind of get a sense for what kind of information is in there and as well how it's formatted. Here it goes. Kansas City International Tower information pop-up 2253 Zulu, wind 050 at 3, visibility 10, few clouds at 6,000, 20,000 scattered, temperature 34, dew point 18, altimeter 29 or 84, arrivals expect visual approach runways 1 right, 1 left, simultaneous approaches in use, advise on initial contact, you have information pop up. So that's what ATIS sounds like, and as I said, the pilot will first get that piece of information. Once they have that information, they then contact clearance delivery. And as the name alludes, clearance delivery's responsibility is to provide clearance to the pilot to actually depart from the airport. And the pilot provides a number of pieces of information to the clearance delivery controller, which includes typically the destination, where they're planning to go on the flight, and as well their flight plan information that helps the clearance delivery folks develop a clearance for that flight. The clearance delivery folks will then come back to the pilot and provide them a number of essential pieces of information. They provide the pilot the actual clearance to depart the airport. They provide a route to the pilot for that flight. They provide an altitude that the pilot will have to maintain when they've departed the runway. They provide them a radio frequency of which they will utilize to contact the departure controller after they've left the runway. And as well, they'll provide them a transponder code. And a transponder code is a 4-digit code that the pilot enters into their avionics. And that code then is seen on the air traffic controller scope. So the avionics and air traffic control systems start working together at that point, and it allows them to keep track of the airplane and also track that airplane as it goes into operation. So once the pilot's got his ATIS and he has his clearance, the next controller that the pilot will contact is the ground controller. And the ground controller's responsibility is to ensure that airplanes don't run into each other on the taxiways, and as well that vehicles that are on the taxiways as well don't become one with an airplane, which creates a bad situation. The ground control operation is actually one of the most critical besides taking off, but the ground controllers keep track of all the airplanes in the ground, and as pilots, it's very complicated at some terminals to figure out where you're going, and you can get confused quite easily. So the ground controllers help ease that complexity for pilots in navigating the ground terminal area. So once a pilot contacts ground control comes back to the pilot and will give them key pieces of information around how they're going to navigate from the terminal area where the airplane's parked to the runway of which they're going to depart from. And the instructions can be given all at once, or a pilot can ask that they be given step by step as they're making progress through the airport. And as well, a lot of avionics systems provide a lot of assistance for pilots, as they call it safe taxi services, which are moving maps that they actually have in their cockpits, that they can keep track of where they are on the runway or on the terminal area and make sure that they don't go out onto a runway which can cause an accident. So the pilot gets his instructions from ground control. He can then start his journey from the parking area, the terminal area, to the runway for takeoff. So once the airplane's waiting at the hold short line, which is a line that's painted actually on the ground that he can't cross without permission to get onto the runway, he can then contact the tower controller. And the tower controller's responsibility is to ensure that planes don't run into each other on the runways, and as well his responsibilities are to direct traffic in the pattern that is wanting to land on that runway. Once a pilot gets to the point that they're ready to contact tower control, they will typically tell them where they're at on the terminal grounds and that they're ready for takeoff. The tower controller will then come back and either give them permission right away to take off, or they'll have them wait. When they have the wait, means they typically have another plane that's cleared to land on that runway. So they'll have that other plane land, and then they'll give permission to that pilot to take off. So once the pilot's been given permission, they can enter the runway, apply power, and take off. So to recap, the essential services associated with ground operation include the automatic terminal information service, clearance delivery, ground control, and tower controllers. So I hope the next time that you are getting situated in your seat, arm wrestling for some real estate on the divider, that you have a little bit better idea of the communication that's going on in the cockpit to ensure a safe